Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be reading 3 Reddit stories about entitled neighbors. I'm Summer, and trust me, you're going to want to hear this, so let's get right into it. Okay, so this story is from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. Am I the a-hole for telling my neighbors that I don't care about their living situation? I know the title sounds bad, but hear me out. I recently relocated to Orlando from Miami. I moved to some apartments that most would consider really nice. Not high end or anything, but definitely nice. Miami was just too expensive, which is the reason for my move. So because I work from home and I have 2 dogs, I wanted to get a 2-bedroom apartment. One that can be an office that I can work from, and one for me to sleep. After having my office in the same room I slept in my last home, still lived with my mom, it felt suffocating, like if I never got to escape work. This has been much better for me mentally, and I feel like I'm actually leaving work after I close my laptop. I bet. I also work from home partially, and yeah, it's so much nicer to have a separate room for work-related things and filming, and then be able to just close down the laptop, shut the door, and separate yourself from that. So it is way nicer. So I've been here about a month and recently saw a family moving in. I'm very introverted, so I don't introduce myself or anything. The only time I really ever have contact with anyone is when someone is walking their dog at the same time I am, and our pups want to say hello to each other. Very quick small talk, and then we're on our way. Today, as I was going back inside after walking my dogs, I saw the wife and just gave a friendly smile. Nothing more. I decided I should throw the trash out before I clock in for the day, just to get it out of the way. As I was walking back to my apartment, the wife stopped me to introduce herself. I introduced myself as well. She then asked if I lived with a girlfriend or anything. I told her no, it's just me and the pups. She gave me a strange look that I can only describe as annoyed. She asked if my apartment had 2 bedrooms. I told her yes, that there were 2 bedrooms. She asked me why I wanted 2 bedrooms when I live alone and explained to her the office sleeping thing I mentioned above. How is that any of her business anyways? I mean, you were nice enough to tell her, but that's none of her business. Now this is the part where I may be the a-hole. She said that it was really inconsiderate and rude to bigger families to take up a 2-bedroom apartment by myself. You're paying the full rent, so why does it matter? That's literally none of her business. If the apartment wants to rent to you, knowing that you have 2 puppies and they're giving you a 2-bedroom apartment because you're paying for it, then that's between you and the landlord. That her family of 4, husband, wife, 2 kids, have to share a 1-bedroom because people like me decide to steal the 2-bedroom apartments. No one told you to move into a 1-bedroom apartment. This is not the only apartment complex in Orlando. And I mean, it's really first come, first serve. He has a valid reason for wanting a 2-bedroom apartment. He's paying the money for it. I don't see anywhere in the post that he's getting like a discount for not having multiple other people living there. I'm assuming that he's paying the amount that a 2-bedroom apartment would be. So I don't understand why how many bedrooms you have is any of her business. And she honestly could have looked elsewhere or waited for a 2-bedroom apartment to come available before she moved there. I said that it sucks that you feel that way, but there's nothing I can do. She said I should trade apartments with her. No, you're not going to do that. You need your 2 bedrooms. You have an office. You have 2 pups. You have yourself. And you like the spacious room. I mean, they literally could have looked for other apartment complexes. If they don't have the money, then, I mean, maybe look at a different town or something. I thought she was joking, so I just started laughing. Not a nervous laugh or anything. I just genuinely found her suggestion hilarious. Me too. If I was living in an apartment complex and I went out to throw my trash out and somebody just stopped me to introduce themselves and then randomly asked about who I have living there, first of all, I don't even know if I would tell them. But maybe if I did and they were like, oh, well, that's really inconsiderate, we should switch, I would also laugh in their face, to be honest. I then said that her living situation doesn't concern me, and if she wanted a 2-bedroom apartment, she should have looked harder. Period. She said she was going to report me to the building. And I told her while she was at it, she should report me to DeSantis, the Florida governor, while she's at it. I went inside and left her there screaming like a crazy person. Well, that's a Karen in action for you. Am I the a-hole? No, not at all. I fail to see what she's going to report you for, because normally when you apply for an apartment, you have to disclose what animals you have. I definitely don't live in Florida, so I don't know how it is there, but where I live in the States, and friends that I've had in other states, it's usually you have to put a deposit on your animals. So, I mean, it doesn't say whether or not he disclosed the animals to the building, or if he paid the deposit, if there is one. But I mean, if he's laughing and telling her to basically go right ahead, I'm assuming that the building is pretty aware of his situation. And I mean, if the building allows animals and he's paying his rent and he's not lying about, having animals, they're not going to care. They just want their money. I mean, I know some building managers will care if they don't allow pets and he's keeping pets there without their permission, because that could damage the property. But if they're fully aware and they're okay with the animals, they're not going to be upset about this. And her living situation absolutely doesn't concern you at all. She absolutely could have looked harder. She could have looked in different towns, other apartment complexes. Like, she's acting like a main character. Let's check out some comments. Top comment here: I think laughter was the appropriate reaction. Next time, just ignore her and her family completely. Consider getting a doorbell camera, because these people are clearly unhinged. Not the a-hole. Yeah, I agree. I would have laughed too, to be honest. Not the a-hole. I very much doubt there are no other 2-bedroom apartments in the place where you live. She should rent one of those. She's being a mooch. And I mean, even so, like, if they're all taken, like, look for a different apartment complex. Wait for one to open if you really need to live there, but don't worry yourself with other people's living situations. If they can afford it, they're paying their share, they signed up with the building, that's none of your business. Not the a-hole. Immediately report this as harassment to the building management. You need to document this before she starts spewing lies. Yeah, that's a good point. I would also recommend getting a camera for inside your apartment that records both audio and video, because I would not be surprised if she starts complaining about your dog's barking in an effort to get you evicted. Cover your ass and start preparing for war. This person has a really good point, and I really like the idea of putting a camera or audio or both inside of the house that could also like record the time, because she very well might start saying that your dogs are barking, trying to get you evicted for that or in trouble for that, and you can literally discredit her by doing that. I think that's a really good idea. Not the a-hole. You can live in a 4,000 square foot mansion if you could afford it. It's no one's business. You really might need to get a doorbell camera. Your neighbor sounds like she could escalate. 100%. I highly doubt they're in a 1-bedroom house with 4 people listed on the lease. Unless you have slumlords as property management, it's normally illegal to have more than 2 people per bedroom in apartments. I guess every state could be different, but something is weird to me about her statement. Yeah, I didn't even clock that. That's so true. In the States, usually they do have like a limit for that. I don't know the whole legality for it, and she's probably just upset. Why are you having a second piece of toast? I have 4 kids, not the a-hole. Yeah, that's good. Not the a-hole. I bet if you had agreed to switch with her, very unrealistic. She would have wanted to pay the lower rent for the 1 bed while having a 2-bedroom, because she has kids to support, right? Probably why she didn't rent a 2-bedroom apartment from the beginning. Exactly. Like, if you can afford it, go buy your own 2-bedroom apartment. Leave OP alone. That's crazy. Well, I think the consensus here is OP is definitely not the a-hole. We got ourselves a case of an entitled Karen in his neighborhood, but let me know what you guys think. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so the next one is also from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. Am I the a-hole for not giving in to my neighbor's demands? Throw away for reasons. Last year, I purchased some property almost sight unseen at auction. It is 14 acres total, and the highlight for me was a farmhouse that hadn't been cared for in quite some time. After getting the property and finalizing all payment, I contracted with a surveyor to give me the exact details, and to my surprise, there was also a barn, patio, and fire pit area that was my property. Oh, let me guess. Neighbor was using it? One weekend a few months ago, I walked over to that part of the property and saw that the barn was in very updated shape with electric, water, etc., all having been run up there. In fact, that end of the property was more kept up than the house. Think of it as two ends of a large L shape. While I was in the barn, a sheriff's car pulled right up to me and the deputy confronted me. I explained this was my property, etc. A minute later, another car pulled up. Out came Ken and Barbie. They called 911, stating there was someone trespassing on their property. Knew it. I explained the situation to all three of them. The deputy seemed keenly interested. Ken and Barbie kept interrupting me, explaining this was their barn, their patio, their everything. I had the surveyor's papers with me in a folder. He advised Ken and Barbie that I probably wasn't trespassing and that there'd probably need to be a real estate lawyer involved. 2 more surveys and 2 opinions from competing lawyers agreed that this part of the property was indeed mine. Of course it was. Ken and Barbie bought the adjacent property 4 years prior and were under the impression that the disputed area was part of their property. They renovated and turned it into an event center, holding wedding receptions, birthday parties, etc. in the barn. Yeah, that does kind of suck though, because, I mean, if they bought the property and the prior owners were like, oh yeah, that's part of the property, and they didn't, think anything of it, and they decided to renovate, put hundreds, thousands, however many dollars into renovation, which isn't cheap, so it's a lot of money. Yeah, that could suck for sure. Like, I can understand why they may be a little upset for sure. Everything they used as part of that business is on my property. Multiple surveys have confirmed that. I've been advised that adverse possessions does not apply as they've not used it anywhere near long enough to count in my state, and they cannot produce any documentation that indicates they were given any permission from the prior owner in any fashion to use this. Ooh, that sucks for them. This might end pretty badly for them. They might be out a lot of dollars. I do not want to own or be responsible for an event venue center. I offered to sell them their end of the L at what I and my real estate agent considered reasonable market value. I mean, that's a good compromise, right? You're not just taking it back and, saying, oh, well, you spent all this money, I'm going to take over your business, basically. Not like the business itself, maybe make his own LLC or whatever and take over the area and use it for whatever. He's offering to sell it to you for a reasonable market value, according to him and his real estate agent, to let you take the land that you had already, spent a lot of money renovating, so you have the option to take it back, but, you do owe the rightful owner to pay for it. So I think it's a reasonable compromise, right? They said they couldn't possibly afford it. I offered to lease them the property in exchange for a % of gross revenue, plus them holding all insurance and liability. That's also a really good compromise too, leasing them the property and letting them continue and getting a percentage of the gross revenue. I mean, it is on your property. I think OP is being pretty reasonable, trying to help these people out, come to a compromise so that both are happy. I also wonder too, how they couldn't afford it. I mean, I wonder how much OP is selling it. Maybe it is a lot, because he doesn't say it here, as well as maybe we can do a little bit of a rent to own type situation. That would be kind of nice. But I mean, wedding venues and stuff are a lot of money. And if they weren't paying to own the land and they only paid to renovate it, I mean, I would think that the amount that they're making from the events should have paid it off at this point, the renovations. But that's also just me assuming. But weddings are no joke. Venues, small venues, are like mad expensive. So they said they couldn't afford to run the business that way. Their last offer was that I would receive a few $100s a month, which would barely cover insurance alone, to say nothing of upkeep. And I said no. Yeah, only a couple $100s for using your property. That's pretty crazy. I mean, to think about it, if there's like a whole wedding venue area where it can fit like 100 people or maybe more, like that's a big area and you're only going to pay a couple $100s a month to use it. I mean, I know that the situation is changing and change sucks, but like it's not your area. I mean, it legally is his. He could just knock down the whole event and you'd have no business. So he's trying to work with you. Ken and Barbie explained they already had multiple bookings for the spring and summer and needed the property or else they would have to return deposits. I remain steadfast and I want them to hold the insurance and pay me the lease or else it'll just sit there. Am I the a-hole? So as you guys know, I always try to look at it from both perspectives here. I really think that it does suck that they were using this and they thought it was their property. They renovated, they spent a lot of money renovating it, and they were using it for event income. So, you know, the thought of losing their business is really stressful. Change is really stressful. They didn't have this expense before where they would have to, you know, pay for the land. So it definitely does suck on their end. But I really don't think OP is the a-hole in this situation. They paid for that property. They had a surveyor come out. The area is legally his. Realistically, he doesn't have to do anything for them. They have no claim. They have no paperwork showing that they thought that it was theirs, that the previous owner told them it was theirs. They don't have any proof of that would help them stand in court. And OP realistically could just knock down their business and build whatever he wants there. He could leave it there, not let them use it. And I feel like he's being very reasonable. He offered to sell it to them. He offered to lease it to them. He wants them to hold insurance, which, I mean, you need insurance. If something happens on the property, he could legally be liable because that's his property. Of course, he wants you to have insurance. Yeah, I don't think he's the a-hole here. It's not like he's completely shutting them down, saying like, yeah, now it's mine. Oh, well, to your business. He's trying to make it work for these people. And, you know, them offering just a couple $100s a month when they're likely making thousands per reservation, I don't think he's the a-hole. Let's read some comments. Top comment, not the a-hole. Sounds like Ken and Barbie have a big problem, but that's not your problem. They failed at the most basic part of property ownership, knowing where your property lines are. Literally. It sucks for them that they sunk so much money into a property they don't actually own and have no right to use, but that's their own fault. Exactly. I mean, there's something to be said as well. Like if you're going to be making like a big renovation, first of all, and like maybe even a business, I would want to know where my property lines stand. Like, I'm just thinking about building a fence and I want to know exactly where my property lines stand. So, I mean, if I was going to make a business, build a barn, build anything that could be used for an event or just anything in general, I'm going to want to know where my lines are because I don't want to spend money that could not be mine. Not the a-hole. If they're so interested in using your property, they need to cover the insurance and give you something on top of that. Since they aren't being at all realistic, put up no trespassing signs and don't let them use your property at all, ever. Exactly. They're not even trying to come to a compromise. I mean, you gave them multiple options and their only option was a couple $100s. I'm sorry, but that's not good enough. Like, I understand, again, they weren't paying anything before. They thought it was theirs, but unfortunately, legally, it's not theirs. He's trying to work with you. It sucks to be them. They don't sound like they've done anything deliberately wrong, but at the end of the day, it's not their property. Buying the land sounds like the most reasonable option, not the a-hole. Like, Yes, they didn't do anything deliberately wrong as far as we know. There's nothing in the post that says that they knew it wasn't their land and they built on it. So, no, they didn't deliberately do anything wrong, it seems like. But still, it's not your land. The guy's trying to work with you. Not the a-hole. They should have had a survey done when they moved in. And don't people need permits to operate a party venue? Why didn't the town realize it wasn't their land? That's a good point. I don't really know what all goes into permits for operating like a business. I would personally think that they would want to know the land lines and would figure that out. But I mean, I also don't know how that works or where this person lives. So, not sure, but that's a good point. Not the a-hole. If they have multiple bookings for spring and summer, they can pay for you using your property. Exactly. Thus far, you seem to have done everything correctly and politely. Surveyors, lawyers, all that kind of stuff. They did not do a survey before building. That was not wise on their part to just assume the property was theirs. You made them two reasonable offers for them to purchase or lease the property. They've refused both. The fact that they have events planned is irrelevant, and will have to return the deposits is not for you to worry. The only question is, can they sue you for the improvements that they inadvertently made on your property? You are not the a-hole. P.S. Because they rejected your first offers, I would bump up the price on the next round of discussions. Yeah, I would do that too. Everything here that this person said is true. OP was trying to be reasonable. That is a good question. I don't know if they can sue for the improvements. I mean, they don't have any legal claim to the land, so I'm not sure. But overall, it looks like in the comments section, not the a-hole. I agree. What do you guys think? But let's get on to the next one. Okay, so the last story is from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. Am I the a-hole for not letting my neighbors use my yard? I, 26 female, recently bought a house with my husband. Our house is a beachfront house with an amazing yard. The backyard is designed to basically look like a hidden oasis. It has a pool, hot tub, water fountains on the side, and a small slide, all surrounded by trees and other plants. Sounds beautiful. The trees give us privacy from both houses next to us, but still gives us the view of the beach. The backyard is why we bought the home, and we already spent the majority of our time being back there, even when my husband works. The entire backside of the house is mostly grass, so it's also what we see when we are in the house. It is definitely the focal point of our home. Yesterday, we started the construction on a new fence. This fence goes around the backyard with a gate only to the beach, so you either have to go through the house to go through the beach to get to our backyard. We didn't think anything of it before I got a knock on my door this morning from someone who lives in the condos across the street from us. I've seen her a few times, but we never really talked. She introduced herself and then asked about what we were building in our yard. Not really your business, but okay. I just told her that we wanted to put up a fence before tourists start coming. This was recommended to us by our realtor. Mary kind of looked shocked and asked if we were putting a gate on the front or anything. I said no, and that we already had a landscaper come and look to get more plants put around it. She then asked me if I could put a gate on the front. Is she paying for it? I didn't really understand this, so I asked her to clarify when she explained that the previous owners would let people from the condo walk through their yard to get to the beach because otherwise they have to walk 5 minutes down the street to get onto the beach where there are lots of tourists. Our street leads to private beach, so there isn't as many people. No. I mean, the previous owner was nice enough to let you do that, but I wouldn't be letting people walk through my property. I mean, not even just because I don't want people on my property, but I mean, liability wise, if someone comes over and trips on your property, you have a lawsuit. And as well as I like my privacy. I don't want random people walking into my yard. And I mean, it only adds a 5-minute walk. I mean, that's not a big deal. And even if it was longer, it wouldn't change my mind on that. She said that mostly everyone in the condos started doing this over the past few years, especially people with kids, or even just letting their kids go to the beach alone. She also said that they would let people use their pool if they text as asked. Absolutely not. No. You're paying the big price to live in this beautiful house. They're not paying for it. Why should they get access to your yard? Why should they get access to your pool? You know, if you wanted to do that, that's your choice. I mean, you can be nice, but I mean, realistically, this is a huge liability to have like random people come and be in your pool. Again, if someone gets hurt, that's a massive lawsuit right there. And again, your privacy, you know, if you start letting multiple people come over, then what about when you want to have a party? You're going to have random people in your yard walking by, or, you know, you just want privacy and you want to go and be outside with your family. You're going to have people walking by or people trying to go in your pool. I don't like that. I immediately told her that no one would be in my yard unless I knew them. She obviously got upset by this and said that basically everyone in the condos would be upset by this. Sounds like a them problem. I told her that I understand why they want to use my yard and that it's just to pass through, but I hate the idea of being in my backyard and having random people walk through. She started getting mad at me for it and saying that I'm ruining a lot of people's way of life by blocking off this path. She claimed that a lot of people let their kids during the summer go to the beach through this way, and a lot of kids can't walk to the popular spots. The beach is kind of quiet where we are. I did get annoyed and told her that I didn't really care and that I will not let people into my yard. She tried to bring up the pool, but I just told her that I wasn't going to talk about it anymore. So, I mean, I fail to see how you're ruining anyone's life here. I mean, like, your backyard is not a public path for these people to get to the beach. I mean, if their condo doesn't provide them with access to the beach, then that's not one of their amenities. I don't understand why they think that they're entitled to your backyard. I mean, if you're telling them no, then it's a no. I mean, if the prior owners did it, that's their problem. I personally don't think that they should have because of the liability for it. I mean, if they don't care about the privacy aspect, I mean, there's still the liability portion, which is huge. This was yesterday afternoon, and I've already seen people standing outside the condos and pointing to my house. I even had someone run over and talk to me and ask if I was really going to cut off the beach path. I've talked to both my neighbors who agree with me, but my friend and sister are both saying that I'm in the wrong. So am I the a-hole? So let your friend and sister open their backyard for public access because this is ridiculous. Huge liability, lack of privacy. I don't agree that you should be just opening your backyard to public use. I think you're absolutely not the a-hole. I always try to see it from both points of view, but honestly, I can't see this neighbor's point of view. Let's read some comments. Put up cameras all around the fence and yard because condo owners are going to not respect your fence. Or worse, damage property fencing. Try to climb fence, especially since condo people consider you have stolen something from them. Might also talk to an attorney about options if condo people retaliate. High-resolution cameras with recording. It really wasn't very nice of previous owners not to warn you about this problem. Yeah, I really agree with the cameras because, to be honest, this likely is not going to be the end of this. You know, not only is this entitled Karen causing a scene, she clearly told everybody else. They're standing outside pointing at your condo. They're getting riled up. Like, it could get worse. So I would get cameras for sure. OMG, no. Install a locked gate. Send a lawyer letter to the condo board of directors. That for sure. Stating under no circumstances is your private property to be an access point in any circumstances. It's for everyone's safety and insurance. They will be trespassed. I would not want anyone to sue. What if someone is hurt on your property or drowned in your hot tub? Exactly. What if a child was lost, someone attacked? The scenarios are alarming. Protect yourself, and a 5-minute walk is not the end of the world. It's not your responsibility to ensure access for the public. Confirm this is your personal legal access. It's irresponsible. What would your insurance company say? Honestly, I would think your insurance company would probably raise your rates through the roof. I'm just assuming that. But I mean, if your backyard is being used as public access to a pool and to the beach, I would think that your insurance would probably skyrocket. I'm a bit confused. Do these condo owners have access to this private beach? If so, it's on their landowner/manager to provide that. If not, then they really have no argument regardless. Either way, easy, not the a-hole. Private property is private property, plain and simple. period. Is a 5-minute walk around. What the fuck? Are they lazy? Not the a-hole, just fence it off and no gate. Get the fencing up ASAP before someone tries to claim your yard is a legal egress. Hard to believe a swimming pool isn't legally required to be fenced in. I'd also immediately put up no trespassing signs, at least until construction is done. Not a beach access story, but a U.S. National Forest one. Partners' parents built next to a national forest. The locals had illegally made paths through this private property some years earlier. People argued about access. They had to put up temp fencing with no trespassing signs. Another lot elsewhere in this subdivision had allowed it for years, and when a new owner tried to stop it, lost in court, had to allow access through the lot. That's crazy. Not the a-hole, it's private property. The same people bitching are the same ones who'd sue you if they tripped on something while trespassing. Period. A pool is an even bigger liability. I find it hard to believe the former owners really let strangers use it unattended. If they really did, they're fools. It's equally hard to believe that walking a few more minutes will ruin anyone's way of life. Most likely, people will realize this once the drama queen has her moment on stage. Exactly. I think the consensus here is you're not the a-hole, and I totally agree. But let me know what you guys think. All right, guys. Well, that's all the tea that I have for today. Those were some entitled neighbors. Let me know what you guys think, and if you liked hanging out with me, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!